Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages, folks, some things just can't be rushed. Some things just can't be rushed. And one of those things that can't be rushed is listening to Elvis sing the songs that he recorded written by Mac Davis. And I'm not even going to lie to you, that's what I was doing. So I'm sorry, but here I am. And we are ready to rock and roll. Thought I was on late night in the Midlands tonight. It's Thursday night, not tonight. So we've got an episode of Podcast Excellence, and I think you're going to love this one. This one is really awesome for me. Really awesome for me. I enjoyed listening to this. Baby, baby, don't get hooked on me. Dyer threw it up. So that's my best Mac Davis impression right there. Cold, so not the best, but anyway. So this is some good stuff. How did I do a reverse Biden? I don't understand. But this is good stuff. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be very, very powerful. And we want to remind you that tomorrow at 2 p.m., we're going to have the guys from Launch Medical talk about acoustic wave theory. They're the ones that bring you acoustic wave therapy. It's not a theory anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's a therapy. They're the ones making sex great again. Oh, confusing Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, absolutely. Confusing Super Thursday. Tuesday, Joe. Oh, yeah. Super Tuesday. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday and we're here together. So it is super. Go to jeffreydaugherty.com. We got a great rocket sponsor thing there and you'll like it. I promise you. And let's go ahead since I'm Bidening around. Sorry, I staggered there for a minute. Let me get back into the real thing. The amazing world of Richard Sharp Shaver. Anyway, we'll go to the chat later. The amazing world of Richard Sharp Shaver, and Cynthia's about ready to shoot me right now, but that's okay. She specifically told me not to do that, but I was looking for the very first opportunity. And I took it. So anyway, folks, most of you probably don't even know who Richard Sharp Shaver is, but I'm convinced that he was probably one of the first, if not the first truthers. And I mean real truthers, ladies and gentlemen, not these baby fake truthers, real truthers. This is going to be some amazing stuff, exciting stuff. And let's jump right into it. What do you say? Richard Sharp Shaver. And does anyone else, when you hear Richard Sharp Shaver, do you think a shapeshifter? When I hear his name, I think a shapeshifter. I don't know why. But anyway, he achieved notoriety shortly after World War II. He was the author of many controversial stories, science fiction stories. And they were printed in science fiction magazines like the amazing stories that you see pictured here. And you've got down there on the bottom, I Remember Lemuria, Richard S. Shaver. And of course, and I haven't looked into this yet fully. Plus, he had hot babes on those books too. But I haven't looked into this, and there's no doubt that Richard Sharp Shaver, being involved with amazing stories, had to have at least been a passerby acquaintance with L. Ron Hubbard, and that might fit into all this. I love it when things get deep and when things connect. And even though I spent several hours on this afternoon, I think there's more to look at there. But he did write in these amazing stories, and his story really is amazing. He claimed personal experience of a sinister ancient civilization with fantastic technology living in caverns under the earth. So you can see where I kind of came across this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And Shaver and his editor / publisher, Ray Palmer, said that while Shaver's writings were presented as fiction, that they were really fundamentally true, and Shaver's stories were promoted by the magazines as the Shaver Mystery. And during the last decades of his life, interestingly, Shaver devoted himself to what's called rock books, stones that he believed had been created by the advanced ancient races and embedded with legible pictures and text. He thought they made books out of rocks, where you can read and learn amazing stuff. He produced paintings based upon the rock images. He photographed the rocks. He wrote about the rocks. And after his death, his paintings gained notoriety, and they've been exhibited in LA. They've been exhibited in New York, and all these other cool places. So it's really cool stuff. And you can see thought records of Lemuria. What a very, very interesting guy. And then, they mentioned his publisher, Raymond Palmer. And now we start and look at Raymond Palmer a little bit, because he was a fascinating guy. He really was. He was the editor, and he was Shaver's editor of his writings, and also the editor of that Amazing Stories magazine that you saw some of the pictures on. And he was the editor of that from 38 to 49. And he left the Amazing Stories to publish and edit Fate magazine. This is so amazing. Fate magazine, and eventually many other magazines and books through his own publishing houses. And in addition to these, magazines like Mystic, Search, Flying Saucers. He published and republished numerous spiritualist books. So this guy was deep. He was really into this. It wasn't just making money like a lot of people on YouTube. He was into this. He even published OASP, I think is how you say it, a new Bible, as well as several books related to flying saucers, including The Coming of the Saucers, co-written with Kenneth Arnold. Palmer was also a prolific author of science fiction and fantasy stories, many of which were published under pseudonyms. So you've got Richard Sharp Shaver, shapeshifter, and you've got Raymond Palmer, both guys that really believed that this stuff was deep and couldn't sell it. Like, it's not like today. If this was today, they'd have both been on YouTube, but instead they had to push it as fantasy. And I wonder if they weren't, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages, I wonder if they weren't the very first truthers. And this is Palmer here. And you say he looks like Richie Cunningham's younger brother. Well, he was hit by a truck at 7 years old. He suffered a broken back. He wasn't able to get repaired surgically, and he only grew to be about 4 feet tall, and he had a hunchback. And, a lot of people would just throw up their hands and quit. I'm just got hit by a truck. I'm 4 feet tall. I'm a hunchback. I'm just going to give up and live in my mom's basement and let welfare take care of me. But this dude, he found refuge in science fiction. He started reading voraciously. He rose through the ranks of science fiction fandom and is credited, along with Walter Dennis, with editing the first fanzine, which was called The Comet, in May 1930. So this guy, back broken, 4 feet tall, hunchback, decides to go to work and ends up writing the first fanzine called The Comet. You can be 4 feet tall and bulletproof too, evidently. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages. So The Comet, and you can see he probably did it himself, later known as just question mark, and then finally known as Cosmology. It was the first American science fiction magazine. The first American science fiction magazine. Amazing stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate this guy. First published in 1930 by the Science Correspondence Club in Chicago. And then it went on till 1933. This guy was 4 feet tall and bulletproof. It was amazing stuff. But he didn't stop there. He then went on to do many other things, and we'll go back for a minute to Raymond Palmer, his editor. If you remember, Raymond Palmer, as an editor, we were talking about the editor of Amazing Stories, also the editor of Fantastic Adventures, which he started. He liked the adventurous. He liked the fast-moving. And one of his claims to fame, you ever heard of a guy named Isaac Asimov? Of course you have. And again, Palmer has to have connections to Hubbard too, and we're going to investigate those. Isaac Asimov's very first professional story marooned off Vesta was published in Amazing Stories. That's an amazing story. The guy that many people think is the greatest science fiction writer of all time got his start in Amazing Stories. And then in 1939, Palmer also started this Fantastic Adventures, which you see, and it lasted till 1953. This is not just a magazine. This is successful. These are successful magazines. And I am impressed. And not only that, he started Fate magazine. And folks, do you know that Fate magazine is still rocking today? To this day, Fate magazine lives, ladies and gentlemen. It's the longest running magazine devoted to the paranormal. It's the world's leading magazine of the paranormal. It's published expert opinions about UFOs, psychic abilities, ghosts, hauntings, cryptozoology, alternative medicine, divination methods, belief in the survival of personality after death, Fortean phenomena, Charles Fort, predictive dreams, mental telepathy, archaeology, and all the good stuff. Wow. And he started this back in like the 30s, folks. That's amazing. This guy is so interesting. I think he was the first truther. I really do. I think he was the first truther. He was deep. Now back to Richard Sharp Shaver. Palmer was his publisher, his editor, remember? Shaver claims that he was working in this factory. And there was I believe it was was it a drill? No, it was a, what's the thing that the guys, you light it and you're, it's not a torch. You know what I'm talking about? A welder. I think it was a welder. And the welder supposedly was putting off this frequency that allowed Richard Shaver to hear the thoughts of the other guys. Weird, huh? And then it allowed him to start hearing stuff from underneath the ground. Machinery frequency caused him to begin to hear the thoughts of the men working around him. And then he received telepathic records of a torture session conducted by malign or malignant entities in caverns deep within the earth. I think this is interesting because when we were in Denver for PotCon, RexCon, LeagueCon, I remember Ken saying that when he went to the Denver airport, he could feel like he heard torturing going on underneath the Denver airport. Well, Shaver told one too many people the story, and he wound up with a all expense paid vacation in a nice quiet place in 1934. They could not give him a clear diagnosis, but his whereabouts and actions cannot reliably be traced from 34 until the early 40s. And Palmer, his editor, later reported that Shaver had spent about 8 years in a mental institution, which proves that you don't have to be crazy to rise to the top of this genre, but it helps. So I feel like I'm in a real good place. I'm in a place that fits my talents and fits my mental stability. And guess what? So are you people. So we may get driven crazy, but at least it's a short cab ride. And then during 1943, Shaver, out of his vacation, wrote a letter to Amazing Stories, and he claimed to have discovered an ancient language he called Mantong. And I'm all over this. I didn't have time to get into this, but I just have a little inkling that this is something big. And it's sort of a proto-human language that was the source of all earthly languages. And it's not really letter-based, it's sound-based. And every sound has a hidden meaning. And Palmer, the editor, took this information, applied it to several words, and said, "Ooh, he may be crazy, but he's got something that might make some sense." So Palmer wrote back to Shaver said, how'd you learn about this? Shaver sends him a 10,000 word document. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, if you send me a 10,000 word email, I'm not reading it. If you send me a 10-word email, I got to ponder it a little bit. So 10,000 words, it was called A Warning to Future Man. And he wrote of an extremely advanced prehistoric race who had built caverns inside the earth, then abandoned the earth due to damaging radiation from the sun. But wait, there's more, because they left some of their people behind. And a minority of them became noble humans, and they called them Teros, while the most degenerated over time into a population of mentally impaired sadists known as Deros, short for demented robots. Now, they weren't robots because they were mechanical. They were robots because they had savage behavior. So wait a second. Let me get this straight. We got an ancient race of beings that live inside the earth. Okay. Ancient race of beings that live inside the earth. I got to scratch. This is a head scratcher. They leave, but they leave some of their people behind. And some of their people are good people, and some of their people are flesh-eating sadists. Wow. And these people lived in cave cities, according to Shaver. They kidnapped surface-dwelling people for meat and for torture. And they also had sophisticated ray machinery that the great ancient races left behind, and they spied on people and projected tormenting thoughts and voices into their minds. Do you hear what I'm hearing? Do you see what I'm seeing? Are you picking up what he's putting down? This is the 40s. And he's saying there's ray weaponry that can read your mind, that can spy on you, and that can project thoughts and voices into your mind. In the 40s, folks. And they call it science fiction. I'm telling you, these jokers were the first truthers, and they might not even have known it. They were the first truthers, and they might not have even known it, folks. This stuff really gets me going. It's amazing. And then he also said that they could be blamed for airplane crashes in catastrophic national disasters, natural disasters even, because they'd want to make these things happen so there'd be a lot of bodies so they could go up there and get some meat. I mean, think of the stuff that we think about now. This is the source of most of it. Some of the crazy stuff and some of the, oh man, he might have been onto something stuff as well. And then think about this. Again, this is the 40s. We didn't know about Jeffrey Epstein. We didn't know about the Clintons. We didn't know about Harvey. We didn't know about all this stuff. And in the 40s, he's writing that these Deros, these subhuman, sadistic, flesh and blood robots, not robots, but just flesh and blood subhuman individuals, were raping women, engaging in sadomasochistic type practices, and they would mainly stay in their caves. This is amazing stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is powerful stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that you're enjoying it, and I hope that you're letting it sink in, and I hope that you're processing it. And Shaver claimed to possess firsthand knowledge of the Deros and their caves, insisting he'd been their prisoner for several years. So you can see what's going on here. Shaver claimed that he was being held captive by the Deros. Palmer says, well, he was actually in a mental institution. But who's to say that if he was in the mental institution, that he might not have been psychically, astrally, whatever, in the presence of these people? Wherever he was picking up some truth. He was picking up some reality. He was presaging MK Ultra. He was presaging all of this mind control. He was presaging the pedo gates. This guy was tuned in to some interesting stuff. Even if he was in a rubber room. But who knows? Maybe Palmer was trying to cover it up. Maybe dude really was in the underground being tortured by the Deros. We will never know, will we? We will never know. But in 1945, they published the issue of Amazing that include the Shaver Mysteries. And the issue sold out and generated huge response between 45 and 49, tens of thousands of letters. 1945, 1949, tens of thousands of letters of people claiming that they too had heard strange voices, people that had encountered some of these Deros in the hollow earth. Wow. So they've got the most popular stories they've ever got. They're making more money than they've ever made. They're selling more magazines than they've ever sold. And then they stop publishing all and any of Shaver's stories. Why would they kill the goose that laid the golden egg? Well, Palmer, the publisher, later said that the magazine was pressured by sinister outside forces to make the change. Who would the sinister outside forces have been? This guy was telling us about pedophilia coming. This guy was telling us about torture coming. This guy was telling us about mind control coming. This guy was telling us about voice to skull technology, whatever that's called. This guy was presaging so much of the stuff that was coming. Somebody said, you got to stop this. We can't have this getting out. It's way too early. Wow. These guys, Shaver, Palmer, these were the first truthers, ladies and gentlemen, the first real truthers. And you've never even heard about them. I've never even heard about them. Shame on us. These are the people we need to be studying. These are the people we need to be understanding. And then, now we're getting to the UFO genre. 1947, Kenneth Arnold claims to have seen something unusual flying around Mount Rainier. In actuality, he claimed to see something fly out of Mount Rainier. Out of Mount Rainier. Well, you're exceptional, Sterling. We're talking about most of us. Arnold claims to see objects flying out of Mount Rainier, coming from out of the mountain. His report caused widespread interest in UFOs, and Palmer, the editor, said, this proves what Shaver was talking about. Shaver's the first one that ever drew flying saucers, ladies and gentlemen, in the American public, in American publishing, in American art. Shaver's the first one that came up with the concept of the UFO, the flying saucer. And Palmer argued that this was a validation of the Shaver mystery. Shaver had been saying that there were bad guys under the ground and they had flying saucers. And all of a sudden, out from under the ground comes flying saucers. John Keel, famous ufologist, in his 1983 article, The Man Who Invented Flying Saucers, declared that Palmer assigned artists to make sketches of objects described by the readers, and disc-shaped flying machines appeared on the covers of his magazine long before 1947, circa Roswell. Palmer, Shaver, these are the original truthers. Palmer, Shaver, Arnold. These guys are legends along with John Keel. Millions of people even walking by and just seeing those things on the stands. Dudes, dudettes, the original truthers. Shaver, Palmer, Arnold. Good stuff, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages. Good stuff. And I want you to notice something. I want you to notice something. I've been talking about it the last week, couple weeks. I've been talking about intraterrestrials. I've been talking about why do you think they're from outer space? Folks, have you made that connection? The guys that invented UFOs, the guys that first discovered UFOs, the very first UF freaking O's, that's what the F stands for, unidentified freaking objects. The first UFOs were from under the freaking ground. The first UFOs weren't from the backside of Uranus. The first UFOs weren't from the Pleiades. The first UFOs weren't from Draco. The first UFOs weren't from Andromeda. And maybe none of them still are. The first UFOs, the very first you freaking FOs came from under the ground. So how did the genre literally get flipped on its head? Here we sit today, March 3rd, 2020, people yelling, screaming, hollering, Jeff is a this, Jeff is a that, Jeff's ugly, Jeff's stupid. Because Jeff says, are they really from out there? When the very first people that ever brought you the idea of UFO said, they're from under the freaking earth. And the first guy that ever saw a damn UFO said they came from freaking under the earth. And yet the prevailing ET hypothesis now states exactly the opposite of the original classic UFO hypothesis. Is this what Palmer was referring to when he claimed that sinister forces caused him to abandon the Shaver mystery? Did sinister forces prevent them from revealing that the UFOs ain't coming from space? They're coming from under the ground. They're coming from under the ocean. They're from right here. They're from right here, ladies and gentlemen. They're from right here. And why does both the mainstream media want you to believe they're from out there, and the lamestream, no longer truther media wants you to think they're from out there? I'm like the redheaded stepchild of our genre now. Jeff says that there's not ETs. Jeff says they're not there. Jeff says they're from here. And that's okay. And Tracy just hit the nail on the proverbial head. They made Palmer stop printing these truths so that we and you wouldn't find out their secrets. Wow. This is powerful, powerful stuff. I hope that's not the end of my slides. Damn. It's the end of my slides. Just when I was having fun, the slides ran out. We got a lot more because these guys, you got to understand the UFO, the sci-fi genre back then was a very tightly knit group. Asimov, and for some reason I can't think of any of their names right now. And Hubbard, Asimov, Shaver, Palmer. Hubbard was part of it. Man, I've got some new information about L. Ron Hubbard. It's going to blow your minds as I'm getting to this. Oh, boy. They can use the fear from out there to control you down here. That's so good, ladies and gentlemen. Why have we never heard of these people? Kurzweil, that's definitely one of them. Wow. That's right. Bill Cooper and Behold a Pale Horse tells of UFOs coming out of the ocean while he was in the Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, how come All of the mainstream media, from Hollywood down to now the Daily News, wants us to believe that they're extraterrestrials from space. And now even the silly, goofy truthers that you can't tell the difference between them and the mainstream media because they're saying the same thing. Something's wrong when I can listen to the mainstream media and they say, oh, they're all from outer space. And I listen to the truthers and they say, oh, they're all from outer space. I listen to the mainstream media. Oh, the world's dying. Everything's horrible. I listen to the truthers. Oh, the world's dying. Everything's horrible. I listen to mainstream media. Oh, disease, 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 panic, panic, panic. I listen to the truthers. Disease, 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 panic, panic, panic. Something's wrong. Truthers aren't truthers anymore. There is no truth movement anymore. The truth movement has been replaced by the results of a bowel movement, and that's all it is. But we are here to change that, cousins. We are here to change that. I've got a feeling that everything's gonna be all right. I have a feeling that we got some good stuff in the chat room. So let's go check it out. And while we do, I want you to remember, folks, that nobody's ever been abducted, ever, out of a focused life force energy field. It is high consciousness on demand. It's free for 30 days. Go to jeffreydaugherty.com and click on the fluffy logo and find out all about it. And it is that easy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages. What do we got here? What do we got here? What do we got here? On this great presentation of podcast excellence, Juan Galvez grows the most aromatic coffee in the world, and I'm enjoying it right now. Thank you so much, Juan Galvez. What would we do without Juan Galvez, ladies and gentlemen? The first real truthers. We've been talking about them here tonight, and I'm looking for the first real good comment that I can put up on the screen. Does anyone read Fate magazine? I do. They got a website. I just started reading it, but I do. I wonder if he wrote anything about flat Earth. Ooh, that's a good question. I do not know if he wrote anything about flat Earth. What else we got in here, ladies and gentlemen? Surely we've got some great comments. Jeffrey Daugherty, 9.5 words. It is. I'm kidding slightly about that. Let's see what else we got. That's insane, says Jay Banks. I always found it fascinating, but didn't hold it all true till roughly 2000. Yeah, it took us all a while. Guidebooks to Earth. That would be awesome. Let's see. In the Emerald Tablets, Mount Shasta also. Yep, they see there's places down in Central and South America. We did a show not too long ago about that as well. Just powerful stuff, interesting stuff. You freaking FOs. That's exactly right. Intraterrestrial. Get out of here with that. Why you feel the need to point that out, I'm not really sure, but that's okay. That's great info, Jeff. First time hearing this. Me too, but not all of us. It's not the first time, but a lot of us have. You won't expect to find out, so you don't find out their secrets. That's why they cover it all up. Absolutely. They are from here, says Mark. I believe it. I do. They can use fear of there to control you here. Absolutely, 100%. The call is coming from the house. What does Jay Banks have? Check it out, Barry. Check it out, okay? Runaway, that's my line. Yeah, Tracy's been saying that about the calls coming from inside the house. You know the Have You Checked the Children movie? What was it called? A Stranger Calls. Come on now. Let's see. The space between our ears is where they come from. I like that. That's a good one. Let's see. Truthers in 1990 are nothing like truthers now because there really were some in 1990. She said it. There ain't any more. any real ones. That's almost completely true. Is it possible that these Anthonys that live within the earth control our government? I think that's supposed to be aliens. And yeah, it's possible. I would say it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Oh, come on, Jeff. I'm on your side. Yeah, I know, but still, that was kind of, I don't know why you felt the need to point that out. Um, they want to come down and play God. Yes, exactly they do. Exactly they do. Interesting stuff. I thought this would go longer. I thought this would go longer than that. But that's okay. And we appreciate everybody jumping in. We appreciate everybody commenting. Are there coneheads in the Vatican? Coneheads in the Vatican? Ha ha ha! Isn't that kind of how it went? I don't remember the coneheads too much, but you know. Let's see. What else we got? Here? I just came in 10 minutes ago. Well, you can, that's the beautiful thing about this. You can go back and yeah. My grandmother always said the Catholics were members of the KKK. Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen. Oh boy. We appreciate you guys being here. Do you believe that the reptilians live with the inner earth core? I don't believe anything because in the middle of every belief is a lie. But I know from my research that it's certainly a possibility that beings live in the inner earth and that some of those beings might be reptilians. Yes, absolutely. It might be within the earth and they might be reptilians for sure. Was the Coneheads a truth drop? I don't know. I didn't watch the Coneheads enough to really have a good handle on that one. Maybe the elite are feeding us to them to stay in power. Maybe. That's certainly worth consideration, Colin. Well, folks, I think it's interesting to get a look at the original truthers. And like Sarah Connor says, whoa, we're getting into some weird stuff. Absolutely, we're getting into weird stuff. And I was trying to avoid that, Jay Banks, but I guess you're going to make me comment on it. I did a whole series on the Book of Thoth, Emerald Tablets. Overrated, I think. Overrated. If it's channeled, I usually change the channel. To me, overrated. That's my opinion. Tracy, coneheads are reference to head shaped like Rothschild. His head is conical. That's interesting. That is really interesting. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. I like this. Comical, conical Catholics. There's some alliteration for you. Let's see. Yeah, I agree with Tracy. She's saying it a lot more bluntly than I am. Emerald tablets, not real. Emerald tablet, yes. Tablet's not real. I'm not sure what she means by that, but you know, it just meh. I got a meh. I give it a one big meh. I really will. But I can't wait to dive back into that material, find out about that language, and there's got to be a calculator somewhere or a converter or a translator somewhere to be able to run some words through and see what we come up with on that. And something tells me that there's something there. I might be right. I might be wrong, but I am certainly going to do the diligent work on it. What does Dyer say? She says, there is emerald tablet alchemy was based on, it's likely real. Interesting. You know what? I don't know one thing about Billy Carson. Not one thing about Billy Carson. In fact, if somebody showed me I couldn't pick Billy Carson out of a lineup. I don't know anything about him. I really don't. Ooh, the Emerald Tablets book was written by a science fiction writer. Boom. How about that? How about that? Yeah, it didn't ring true to me, but it took me a while. I had to go through the whole thing, and there's some interesting stuff to pick out of it. But again, I'm meh. I'm meh on it. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions else you want to throw? I don't even know Billy Carson's name. Let's see. It doesn't make much sense. I'm just happy that you all have open and curious minds. That's what we're all about. The Kabbalion, no, not going to go down that road. That's just me, though. Light Worker, he wrote a book, Emerald Tab. Yeah, Ryan got annoyed by Billy Carson. Oh, Billy Carson's black. The black Elon Musk, huh? Okay, Runaway says fraud. Runaway says fraud. Interesting. Interesting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we've got good stuff coming up tomorrow. We've got the guys from Launch Medical. I'm just going to go to the schedule and let you know what's going on. Some really good stuff we've got. On tomorrow, Dustin from Launch Medical at 2 p.m. On Thursday night at 9:30, I'll be on 9:30 Eastern. So let me move that to 8:30. So 8:30 Central Time, I'll be on Late Night in the Midlands with Michael Vera. On Friday at 2 p.m., we'll have an interview with Pierre Sabak. So we got some good stuff coming up. We've got some full schedules, and of course, we've got our normal podcast excellence coming at us hardcore, ladies and gentlemen. Wall to wall, treetop tall, coast to coast, border to border. And of course, we were on coast to coast not too long ago. We were on the Power Hour this week and Late Night in the Midlands tomorrow. And there's another one coming up very soon too. And I can't remember who it is, but it's going to be good stuff. Good stuff. Rich says I'm single-handedly destroying the ET agenda. I don't know if I'm trying to destroy the ET agenda because there could be ETs. I'm just trying to get us to rethink the default ET agenda, that it's all from out there. There's nothing from here, because clearly the lamestream baby truthers and the mainstream want our eyes anywhere but here. They want our eyes anywhere but here. And it's important for us to start asking these questions. When everybody knows something, that's the time where somebody ought to start asking some questions and questioning some answers. The most important thing that I say on every show that I do is that you don't have original sin. You've got the spark of divinity within. You don't need salvation. You don't need their savior. You're divine. You're sovereign, and you're free. All you need is to just unindoctrinate yourself. Then you can join us as unindoctrinators. We're here to change the world. We're in the world changing business, and cousins, that business is booming. We're the last generation of real humans. And like Mark Twain said, it's much easier to fool someone than to convince them that they've been fooled. And that's where we come in. I salute you for being here seeking after truth. For Tracy, our moderator extraordinaire, and for the lovely Cynthia, we salute you for being here seeking after truth. And remember, folks, the world is not bad and getting worse. It's good and getting better. And we're here to make damn sure that it does.